I'll put on my farmer hat. I'm Tyrel Owens, an aspiring farmer. So Jay talks about goals. My goal is to farm full time and to give my kids to farm when they get of age. So that's my goals. I have no traditional training in agriculture other than growing up working in a feedlot. I went to YouTube University and podcast tech. And so besides those, I have leaned on my mentors. Some of them are here, such as Jay. Nick Voss out at Huginton has been a huge mentor. I'd wanted sheep. I'd gotten the bug to get sheep just because I hate cows, because I work with them every single day for 20 years. So I got the bug, and I was actually at Soil Health U. We'd already had like 8 head, and Nick Voss was on a panel, and he talked about grazing sheep on covers, and I talked to him afterwards, and I'd seen that there had been sheep for sale, so I went up and called the guy that had the sheep for sale and called the banker during lunch at Soil Health U, and in 2 weeks we came home with sheep. So it wasn't these sheep, so we can move closer if you want to look at the sheep. The fence is off right now. So I bought these that summer. They were a painted desert base, which was raised as a game sheep, so not even meant to be raised like this, and I bred them up with Dorper, which is a hardier, well, not, I wouldn't say hardier, but a meatier sheep, better carcass. It'd be like the Black Angus of the sheep, except better, because they're sheep. So sheep are easier than cattle. They live outside 365. I don't hardly handle them. We sort them, and we give the babies, the lambs, I give them 1 round of shots. We give them CDT, and we've started giving them, at least the males, a Muci, which is a selenium and vitamin E supplement, because we are deficient in selenium in this part of the state. And I don't know if it's just because of the Dorper influence, but we've had them show, males only at about this age, show deficiencies of selenium. So we just give that as a base, and then they don't get touched again when we ban the males. Other than that, I don't worm. There is one ewe out there that is a touch wormy. When we get the lambs worked, I'll probably give her a drench, and then she'll go to town. But if she dies, she dies. I mean, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. You always hear that sheep find a way to die. I could not disagree with that statement more. I have had far fewer problems with sheep doing stupid shit than I've ever seen with cattle. So we call for bad feet and stupid moms. We have a pretty easy way to stay in the herd. Get bred, raise twins, and don't be stupid. You do those things, you're probably going to stay in the herd. And you don't get wormy. I mean, pretty simple. We are all on forage. I don't supplement any protein. I supplemented alfalfa pellets for 3 days in the winter. That's when we had a really bad cold snap. Otherwise, they're getting what they're getting, or whatever's in the hay that they're getting supplemented with. What makes our program successful is I try to breed up on rye or wheat or triticale or something like that. So we turn them out on something like that 2 weeks before breeding, before we turn the rams in. And that gives us our higher lambing percentage. So this last year we actually bred up live lambed at 181% live lambs. And I'm totally questioning myself because we didn't breed up on rye or triticale this fall because we didn't have any. So just milo stalks with oat bale supplemented every 3 days out there, just set out, and they'd just clean it up. So I don't know, but we try to keep them on a good plan of nutrition all year. They do just fine on this. Crabgrass, foxtail, pigweeds. Let's see, that's the difference between sheep and cattle, is the 180, I get 1.8 lambs per ewe, and she breeds at a year of age. She lambs at 1 year of age. I've had them lamb at 9 months of age, and you kind of pick her out of the flock.
Where's your market?
Clay Center or Hutch. I've done a few private treaty on ewe lambs, and then we've also sold a few. I took 7, 8 head to get slaughtered this spring, or the summer, I mean. That they weren't lambs, they were technically hoggets because they were over a year old. But sold them for $250 a head as a light, just per animal, and then the customer paid the processing fee. So probably on the low end compared. If you look at what lamb is in the store, like at Dillon's, I think ground lamb's like $10, $8 a pound. So stupid ridiculous. The lamb prices have been pretty good in the last couple of years. This last year was actually a down. I was pretty bummed the price I got. It was just a bad week to take sheep to the sale barn. So I don't want to do that. I want to find a way to get at least know what I'm going to get. And so how the sheep fit in with the soil health and with the farming is they are my cash crop, my primary cash crop. I planted the rye. You can see the rye. So this half of the field was planted in the spring with rye, and this half I planted last fall. The whole field was milo. This half of the field I planted late. This half of the field I planted early milo. Got back from Notes on the Plains bus trip up to Minokin, and this milo looked like shit. There's pigweeds in this half of the field. This half of the field is a really tough half of the field. It was degraded. Been forage hauled off of it for almost 20 years until I started managing it two and a half years ago. No-till off and on, and so the poor spots in the field show up. But I'm not going to spend money on synthetic to make it look uniform. My idea to correct it is carbon. But on this failed milo, so I came out here. We had the feedlot right here. We had some calves. I put a fence up on this corner post and then another hot wire splitting this. And we grazed 32 head for 45 days, strip graze on the milo. I think they averaged 1.8 to 2 pounds per head per day. And it was, I done it on the clock working for the feedlot, so I only charged 50 cents per head. No, 75 cents is what I ended up charging for selling the feed. But it was a no-brainer, easy. I mean, there's no excuse not to manage grazed cattle. It's so easy. Take me 30 minutes to come out, move a wire. I'd move the water up every couple of days. Sheep, the biggest challenge with the sheep is not keeping them alive. It's not feeding them. It's not pampering them. It's the fence and the guard dogs. That's the two biggest challenges compared to cattle that sheep have, is the fence and dogs, because you have to have dogs, in my opinion. I've never lost anything to any predators. When the vultures get close, the dogs bark. I didn't teach them, they just do it. We've had coyotes come be here or closer to the fence. Dogs just stare them down. We don't worry about them. We want our coyotes, because there's studies that show coyotes are territorial. And so if you have coyotes that are not bothering, you want to keep those coyotes, because you don't want coyotes to move in that are going to bother. So coyotes are more than welcome on anything that I have. I don't worry about them. They're part of the system. Like I said, the sheep was my way in. I discovered I wanted to get, when I graduated high school, I did not want to farm at all. I did not want to farm. I hated it. I saw no future in it. I wanted nothing to do with ag. And then I found Joel Salatin, and there was a potential for money and grazing livestock and being profitable. And then I found his neighbor, Gabe Brown. So thanks a lot for that. And that set me on a whole whirlwind. I don't like chemical, but I really hate tillage. We had ground that I was working for the feedlot, and it just bothered me to no end seeing the birds coming down and eating the mice and the voles and the mice and voles that were dead from the disc, and it's like, nah, this ain't right. I don't even like drilling through a nice stand of cover crop because I see all the life that comes out of it. I wish there was a way to establish the next crop without disturbing what is already there. So, yeah, I don't know where else to go with that. Like I said, part of the reason for this year was because price of seed has gotten out of hand on even cover crops. And as you've seen on the road, that's a tough, like over in that pocket, that's a really tough spot. So like, okay, I had a little chemical left over from spraying another field. I'll spray that patch out so I can get a good establishment of covers. Yeah, pigweed's gonna die. So we'll graze them. I still drilled into it. There's some stand, but it's just, that soil over there, it's high traffic area, and it's tough, compacted, low on carbon. You'll see these pigweed strips is where I bale processed hay this last year over winter. That's how, if I do supplement, my preferred method was bale processing. And then I just creep feed the fence, essentially move them like 5 to 10 feet every day, sheep can clean up, and that's a good way to really do some soil improvement in a hurry. High carbon, high concentration of manure and urine and biology. So like this was rye. this would have been a standing rye crop before we had 2 inches of rain and 6-mile-an-hour wind on Saturday. This would have looked like an unharvested rye field. And so I let it go mature with the idea of I'll have volunteer. And it was only 40 or 50 pounds of rye and a little bit of vetch and a little bit of Austrian winter peas. The idea was that the rye would stay vegetative, an idea from North Dakota or South Dakota, one of the two, and doing it in the spring, and it didn't. It done awesome. I wouldn't be afraid to do rye again in the spring. It stayed green until 3rd week of June. I mean, it was really impressive to see it go. And hairy vetch, I think from now on in the future, I'll put a pound of hairy vetch in every single mix I seed, even in the middle of summer, because it seems to do really well in the heat, surprisingly, very surprisingly. And the beneficial insects love it, and you can hear the different insects buzzing around. It's part of, I don't like to say, I say I'm a farmer, or I attempt to farm, I guess. My goal is to be an ecological manager. I don't want to say farmer, I want to be an ecological manager and manage my livestock or whatever enterprise I'm doing that still has a positive impact on the local ecology. So with that, I'll shut up and let Jay talk.
I think we got the right guy talking. So is it, is this an area that was bale? Where's the nearest bale area?
No, so this spot was an old rut from being chopped, and I came in and just dumped some compost to level it out because I didn't want to do tillage. I'm not gonna. It irks me to no end. I have to look a little bit. We can find.
If you have
over
one,
here.
let's walk over to it and just see if there's been an impact. That'd be a good place to start.
See, here's some old ruts from silage trucks.
This is
A bale process. Yep.
Let's see. We got something other than a square spade?
No, sorry.
No. North Dakota, no one's strong enough to run one of those with
square.
the flat end, so
I was gonna say, all I've ever used is square.
let's
a worm you wouldn't have seen before the rain.
Let's take it over here and then let's dig one over here as well. There we go. Okay, I got it.
The rain is going to make this look better than it would have
Yeah,
been when me and Candy
water
dug.
always gives it a little
Yes.
darker look,
Yes.
right? Okay, so let's just see what we kind of have here. So what happens when we bale, when we consume a bale in place? You know, in our neck of the world, we always say it's not evil to make a bale, but you really want to consider where you're going to feed it. So have you ever run hayland, alfalfa, hayland pans in a rainfall simulator?
Yeah.
Okay, ours don't play out real well.
No,
They shed water really bad.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's a carbon.
It's a low carbon crop, and then you have low carbon.
Return.
Yeah. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So you windrow it, you bale it, and it goes somewhere. What do you do with the next stand? The next crop, you windrow it, you bale it, it goes somewhere. And so what happens to the soil structure? It receives a real limited amount. And then there's no grass in it typically. Right? We like 100% alfalfa stands many times, so there's no grass in it. So there was no fibrous root. Remember the fibrous root that we looked at? Is it Tom? Yeah, in the field we were just at. And you know how there was all soil aggregates on there? So you need a fibrous root to do that. So the alfalfa ones, when you put them in the pan, even though no disturbance, right? Perennial, right? They don't function well. They shed water. So that's kind of one of the things we find out right away. So let's see what we got here. So if I take the surface off of these, and we got rain not too long ago, right? Okay, so this is the one that was bale fed. This is the one that isn't, right? So first of all, we start taking a look, and we look at, well, color. Color's a little hard to determine when it rained. Right? If it hadn't rained for a while, it's a little easier. It plays out a little better. But this one's probably a little darker looking, Okay, so we already know there's probably more carbon in that spot right there, okay? And it's still decomposing, right? It's still decomposing, not all of it's done yet. Now you just start doing a little bit with your thumb, and you start looking at, well, how friable is it, okay? So now I'm getting aggregates, right? So that's well aggregated. This isn't awful, but I got to work a little bit more. I have to work a little bit more to do this one, okay? And so you start that process, and then you move it, right? You're always moving it. So we got people that do it with bale processors. They put it through a bale processor, or they unroll the big round bale. So if they unroll the big round bale, I like that better because you got longer material, just like what Robin was talking about with the wheat, okay? So you got longer material, and now all of a sudden you got all of this happening in a larger area. You know, this is a little more concentrated, and if you got enough bales, this is a good way forward. You know, if you want to get a bigger area, then you might want to unroll it. So there's always, but feeding it on site returns all that carbon and nutrient. So bales have a lot of that in it, right? A lot of that in, yeah. And then you can always tell a little bit on smell. So if you're gonna sniff soil, you want to break it. You want to break it and inhale. Okay, so sounds strange, but you snap it and then you inhale, because when you break it, then it releases the gases, right? And then you can tell. Should have a sweet to neutral smell. If it's sharp, that's usually compaction. Okay, so if you have kind of a sharp, but sweet to neutral. And so you can do that. So if all you have a little bit of soil on the end of your nose later today, I know what you were doing. Right? Yeah, that's what you'd be. So consequently, I think we're using animal impact, we're using bales. Did you notice in the move, did you notice the happy hop? Mm-hmm. Did you see them? Okay, some of them had the happy hop. Some of them, it was just one. Sometimes they had two, you know.
Some are grumpy.
Some are grumpy and didn't hop at all. But I think when a flock has some happy hop in it on the move, that's a sign that they're doing pretty well. That's a pretty content group, right? So if they're stressed, do you think they're going to have a lot of happy hop in there? Probably not. Okay, but they didn't appear too stressed on the move. Granted, it took Tyrel a long time to move them, right? What is that, an hour and a half? I think so.
Just the fence. Just the fence.
So we can use livestock in this environment, and if we have the bales brought in, we have an opportunity for that, and then we have the grazing in place, and we have herd impact. So another scenario that we talked about at the previous one is with beef, but here we can do it with sheep. So
that's better with sheep.
Yeah, so I've heard. Very good, very good.
I'm a little bit on herd dynamics. So we don't ever wean the females that we keep. The moms will wean their own babies. If we try and sell the males in September, the moms will call for them. If we wait one more month in October, they don't miss them. They go back to eating as soon as you get the babies away. And you will see a ewe lamb stay with her mom. They will stay in their little family groups. So they have that bond